So I have my a little watering potted watering system pump here, and I used it all season long to water my two outdoor hanging baskets and stuff like that, and it's worked out fantastic. There's only one little gripe on that I have on it, is that it uses batteries. And what I mean by it uses batteries is that when you put a set of 4 batteries in it, it only uses about, I would say, 20 to 40% of the batteries, and then without you knowing it, it stops working. And then what I would do is, of course, I figured that it used all the batteries up, so I'd swap them out and I put a new set in. But the last set of batteries that I put into it, I actually kind of kept a mental note, and I'm like, the thing is supposed to last quite a long time, and it does, in theory, if you got it working every day. But you don't know when the batteries are expired. So the last time I had a set of batteries in it, and when I took them out, I put them on my fancy tester that analyzes how much actually is in the battery, not doing a voltage thing. It actually puts a special load on the battery, and it figures out how much is actually in it. And I found out that the thing was only using about 20% of the batteries. So, batteries are kind of expensive, just to be using 20% of it, 20 to 40% of it, and then have to toss them. So for next year, I want to modify this thing. So I want to modify it, and of course, you can buy one that's already pre-made, but we got parts here that we have in a hoard, and we're going to modify this thing to be working off of a solar panel. Since this is it uses 6 volts, and of course it's got a 5-volt input. So what perfect thing to use is something that will charge a lithium cell. And if you remember these things from my previous videos of the homemade DIY solar hurricane lanterns made out of solar powered spotlights, these were the solar panels that come with them spotlights. And these are supposedly 5.5 volt solar panels. So, it's got enough gonads to charge a 18650 that's in them. And, of course, we'll have to do a little additional little tweak to these things. And, of course, this thing is only going to run on whatever voltage that you put in it. But it's meant to run on 5 volts or 6 volts with the batteries. So in my wanderings on around eBay and stuff like that, I come across, and I always check out what Alice 1001983 has. So that particular seller has all kinds of little electronic little tchotchkes that come up, and some of them are actually quite interesting and of course, if you're a wacko like me, you could think of things of making them work for you. So this particular eBay seller just happened to come up with these charge boards, but I bought them from Amazon because it'll take a month for anything to come from China to get here. So what we got here, we got a neat little board here that is a TP4056 charging board for your typical single cell lithium cell, but this also has a built-in boost converter, and the boost converter can take your 3.7 volt lithium cell, and you can boost it all the way up to 27 volts at less than 500 milliamps. And the input of the board here, you can either hook it up USB, or it's got provisions for wires. The input is 4.5 to 8 volts. So that's perfect for this little charge, this little solar panel, because it's a 5.5 volt solar panel. And since, you know, this thing lasts quite a long time on a set of batteries, and something that's going to be charged, almost every day if the sun's out, or even a partial charge on a cloudy day or a series of cloudy days, this is a perfect little modification for these things. So on the board here, of course, you got your battery, a port, or an input for a battery, and then you got an output, which will go to this thing, and then you got an input for your solar panel, and that's all you need to do is just, of course, run a wire when you're done playing with this thing from here, and then whatever length you need to go to my little pump here, and then install this little guy. Because like I said, there's an input for solar or USB. And of course, there's the output, which you can adjust. There's a little pot on here on the end of my finger where you can adjust the voltage to either 5 volts or 6 volts. And then, of course, you get your battery and you're done. So very simple. And on the back of the pump here, all we got is 4 screws to take out. And we can either borrow power from this micro USB connector here, or we can tap right behind the battery tray for power. So let's open this up and see what we got in there. And then, of course, then you guys can see what's inside these little automatic systems. And like I said, if it's a concern on, or if you're buying one of these, you can already buy a solar powered one, and then you don't have to do this. But I just happen to have this. I just happen to have the solar panel here, and I stumbled across that little charge boost converter there. So, and of course, we got the wire here that we can use. So that's pretty cool. So that's all that's in here is the pump, and of course then we got the circuit board for the electronics for the timer, and then we got our little USB input here, and then we got our battery input here. So everything is plug and play. So if you had to, you can unplug it and then work on it and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. But being that this is China, you got to kind of be mindful of the wire colors. So let's do a little wire check here. And of course, I don't know what the USB, I'd have to test the USB. But I'm going to go and tap in to the back of the terminal block of the batteries. So I want to make sure that the batteries, the wire color matches the polarity of the battery. And guess what? This is why you got to check stuff. And this is with any kind of thing from China. Because primarily, they don't believe in the wire colors. They just throw the wire colors and then whatever. So, looking at the battery here, my positive terminal of the battery compartment here, it's black wire. It should be red wire, but it's black. And then the negative is red. So, if you didn't pay attention and just hooked the wires up, red is positive and black is negative, you would have popped this thing. You would have blown it up from reverse polarity and stuff like that. So, now that we deciphered that, and that we can unplug things here, let's check out this little USB thing here to see if that is wired backwards too. Because that's kind of a curiosity here. So let's see, that one goes here. And of course, like I said, everything is plug and play. So here's our little wire here. We're going to hook it up to USB, and then we're going to check the polarity of the wires. See if they're right or backwards.
Already on auto mode. AC voltage.
So we're going to hook our positive red to red and our negative to negative. And it's backwards.
AC minus 5.050 volt.
So
Is about to enter steady state.
if you got one of these little Moistenland plant waterers, the wire color is backwards. So your black is your positive and your red is your negative. So that's something to be mindful of when you're playing around with this stuff and anything with China, because they don't follow any kind of standards. So there's no standard here. So if you made the mistake and just went gung-ho in here and wired it up thinking that red was positive and black was negative, you would have been wrong, and you would have blown it up, and then you would have been mad at yourself, because you'd be like, goddamn China, they freaking put the wire color on. They should know better. That red is positive and black is negative. Well, apparently in China, it's black is positive and red is negative. So I'm not going to bore you with the complete build other than an overview. And then when I'm done, I'll bring all you back and show you the finished outcome. Because all we're going to be doing here is we're going to be opening this up. And of course, in here, the only thing we're after is the housing of here and the solar panel. Everything else is going bye-bye. So with these little guys here, this has the little dimmer in there for high and low. So we're going to be taking this board out and then putting this little board in here, because even though that it don't have screw holes, it's the same physical size, a little bit smaller footprint, so it'll fit in there. And then we'll hook up our solar, we'll hook up our battery, we'll hook up our output, and we'll run a wire to our little pump here, and then it can be a solar powered, or I say solar charged automatic plant waterer. So this little guy has a 2-speed in it for high and low button, and we'll desolder that, and we'll save these. We'll save this board, because maybe someday we'll find a future project for it. So keep that in hoard. And of course, this one already has an 18650 battery holder in it. So these things ran off of an 18650 unprotected. So not that it matters, because 18650s are pretty cheap, even if you destroy them. And we'll come back when I got the little project done. So stay tuned for the next segment. So all done with task at hand. I saved you the boredom of going through and putting in one of these little special lithium TP4056 lithium single cell battery charger slash with a boosted output board into found in the Horde solar panel, which has a single lithium cell in it. So we're taking nominal voltage of whatever it happens to be, 4 volts, 3.7 volts, 3.6 volts, and we're boosting it up to about 5 to 6 volts, and we wired it up to our little plant waterer, our automatic plant waterer. And I'll mention that, you know, if you don't have one of these and you would like to have one, they already come solar powered. So just have to do a little Amazon search and you'll find them. But you know, here in this establishment, already had the pump, already had the solar panel. Of course, the wire. All I had to do is I just happened to stumble on these little charge board / boost output boards. So you put all the pieces together, and that's it. So, and to let you know that it works, of course, you know, I'm connected to the wire. And then we'll hit the button here. See it light up. So we're all lit up. So the pump runs. Little button, little status light flashes to let you know that it's on. So for my season of running the automatic water here is that of course I had to experiment on what to use. So I had 2 of your like either 8-inch or 10-inch hanging baskets. One was a petunia and the other one was a fuchsia. So I ran it every day. Actually, I ran it a couple of times a day for the maximum amount, and it was way too much, and I was getting root rot and stuff like that. So I found for this particular year that 5 minutes once a day was more than sufficient. Didn't have any runoff, but it kept the soil wet enough, but not overly wet to cause root rot and stuff like that. Of course, something like this, you're going to have to experiment and stuff like that. And of course, if you got all kinds of stuff hooked up to this thing, up to 10, you're going to have to figure out how long or how many times a day for set time to get your plants to be sufficiently watered. So there's no set answer. I can't give you one if you were even to ask. But, you know, if you got 2 pots, 5 minutes once a day is good enough. And my pots were in semi-sun, semi-shade. So your mileage may vary and stuff like that. Of course, this particular unit and units like this are not 100% waterproof. So the only thing I did was to make it more weather tight, and it worked beautifully all year long, is I put a little UV glue around the gray area here with a gray and a white meat. So that kept any water from going behind the plate and dripping on the circuitry inside. Other than that, thing works perfectly, but it was battery hungry. But now I solved that problem. So now, as long as the pump lasts and the electronics last, and there's no further issues that could crop up, it should run for a very long time. So the last time I changed batteries, just for shits and giggles, I got my fancy super battery tester here that actually tests how much is in the tank of each battery. So I was getting anywhere from 40 to 80%, 20%, stuff like that. So the batteries were not fully depleted where the thing stopped running. So I'm getting anywhere from 40, 60, 80% depending on the battery. So all these are testing out about 40%, but that's only an estimate. So it could be half charged, 50%. You don't know because it's in between 40 and 60. So this thing is about 40% charged, but you know, you're throwing away batteries that still have 40% life in them. So kind of a waste. And if you do a voltage check on them,
Already on. Auto mode. DC voltage. DC 1.314 volt.
1.3 volts. So that's a sufficiently
To enter steady state.
charged battery. So, and then if you put it on one of these little guys, these little battery checkers, it says the same thing. It says it's well in the green. So, still a good battery. So, you know, throwing away batteries, you know, if you didn't know any better, throwing away batteries that you could still use for something else that's not as power hungry dependent. So, not much else to say. Like I said, you know, if you got one of these little pumps, and if you want to do this little mod, you can just check out these little solar charge / boost boards and hook up a single cell lithium cell, and then set the voltage to, you know, anywhere from 5 to 6 volts, and then have some wire, and of course you need a solar panel if you got one laying around, and then hook it up to your battery thing there. And as a reminder, red is not positive in these things. It's negative. So your black is your positive. So be aware, and that's why you always check, especially this stuff from China, because they don't follow wire codes like, you know, normal places do and stuff like that. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next one. Bye bye.